Hi everyone. So I was just gonna continue going along my timeline of strange happenings in my house for this year. Actually happened back on the 8th of this year of March, and it was a normal day. I went to bed early that night because I wasn't feeling good because it just happens sometimes. And it was pretty normal. I do my usual routine with my TV, playing my movies, and what have you. And I wake up in the middle of the night, and no, nothing was wrong with my TV or anything. I mean, my little logo was up, and that was like the last thing I even cared about at that second because something that's never ever happened, like experience wise, was occurring, and I was literally terrified. I was terrified with what was going on. It's never happened before, but my door was shaking on its hinges. It was shaking violently, and it was just my door, and my how do I explain this? My room is dimly lit up in the middle of the night because my laptop's on, my TV's on. I have enough light in my room to see. I got like a little space in between the floor and the edge of the door, and I can see not only in my room, but I can see the little bit of light that comes in from the kitchen or the dining room. And it seeps up underneath that gap there, so I can see if it's my cat, because sometimes she'll stick her paw up on the door and she'll shake it, and I can see her shadow, and I can hear her meowing, and it's totally obvious that it's my cat trying to just aggravate me, and that's not what was happening because I'm staring at my door, shaking on its hinges violently in a manner that I've that honestly terrified me because I'm used to the occasional shaking doors, and it's not my cat. There's no shadow. There's no paw. There's no meowing. It's just my door shaking. And I just stare at it for like a solid 2 minutes, terrified that something's about to open up my door. And it actually started to jiggle the handle. And that's when I get really scared. It's like it's figuring this out a little too quickly. And I'm trying not to really pay attention to it. I'm not going to say anything out to it, and I'm just trying to ignore it because I don't want to encourage its behavior. I just want it to go away. And sometimes, when stuff like that happens and I just ignore it, it'll go away, and it goes away, and then nothing happens. I can go back to sleep, and it never happened. And so that's what I was hoping for. That's what I was waiting on, and it did. I was like, oh, okay, it totally just chilled out. Awesome. And then a minute passed by of silence, and then the door next to mine in the hallway starts to shake violently. It's doing the exact same thing my door just did. My sister used to live in that room. She recently moved out, so now it's basically like a storage. So there's pretty much nothing in there. And the fact that it's just a storage and there's nothing in there, I'll be honest with you, that door is rarely ever closed. There's no reason for it to be closed because we don't like to close doors here. We just like everything to be open. I mean, as you can tell from my past experiences. So there's no reason for that door to be closed. And it was closed, and it was shaking violently. And I was like, oh my god, how am I supposed to ignore this if it's being so loud? Why is nobody being woken up by this noise? Why is it just me? And this goes on literally the entire night. Like I do manage to ignore it to the point where I kind of stumble into a light sleep in between pauses of the shaking. Please forgive my dog. He's like a little pansy. He likes to bark at everything. So just ignore him. Anyways, but just goes back and forth all night long, and I don't investigate it. I just ignore it. I just deal with it. I'm like, whatever. As long as it doesn't actually open up the door, I think I'll be okay. I was terrified. I was not about to investigate. I wasn't even about to get out of my bed because I felt like the second I moved, the door was just going to like burst open and something was going to be on the other side that I was not prepared to accept because it wasn't normal. Like with my past activities, like I can tell it wasn't the same. It wasn't the same entity or energy. It couldn't have been the same. But eventually, I guess it had been around 5 o'clock because it was the time of the year where I had the sunlight was coming in through my curtains, and in the sunlight, I found the courage to open up my door finally and to see what was causing the noise, because at this point in time, like the storage door was shaking, and I'm like, as long as it's not my door and I don't open it up and it's like right on me or something, I think I'll be okay. And so I open up my door real quick and I look out, and my cat is in the storage room, and her paws underneath the door. She's shaking and she starts to meow like crazy the second that she hears my door open. And I'm like, where are you even in there, cat? And I open up the door and I let her out, and she runs away and she does her cat thing. And I go back to my room and I'm thinking about it, and I'm like, I don't know why she was in there, because the door was closed when I went to bed that night. Or sorry, it was not closed when I went to bed that night, so there was no reason for her to have been in that room. And even then, yes, it would explain why that door was shaking so violently, but it would not explain why my door would be shaking so violently, because, I tested it out. Before I went to work that day, I closed both the doors, and I acted like my cat would, and I stuck my hand underneath the door and I shook it, and I did it to both doors, and none of them shook simultaneously. I mean, my experience that night, neither door shook simultaneously, and even when I was doing it, it was only one door, and then the other. Like I had to literally physically do it to each individual door, and it didn't affect the other door. And I don't know what it was, because I'm not going to check that sort of thing out. I'm not doing that, because I don't encourage that sort of thing, because the second you start to talk about it or acknowledge that it's there, the more it's going to do. And it's not good, especially if it's not something I don't know what it is. Like, I used to know exactly what it was, and therefore I was okay with what it was doing because I knew what it was. It's not the same anymore. But if you guys have any idea what you think it might have been, besides my cat, because I honestly don't think it could have been my cat, because cats can't reach doorknobs. At least not mine. She's not smart enough. I've seen her. I know how she opens doors. She just meows and waits for me. But yeah, if you guys can think of anything else that could cause it, then you guys just let me know. And bye.